Prismatic has come with many new surprises, but I doubt one could expect this one. Infinite threadlings, infinite dodge and melees, enemy stealth, and blazing fast transcendence and super energy unlike anything before. All that and more can be feasible to your hunter for only a few minutes of your time. First things first, we review the unlikely mechanism that gets all of our gears turning. The balance of power exotic boots. It states that your threaded specter has increased durability and that damaging it releases multiple threadlings at once. The base threaded specter comes with 2 threadlings already. However, with the balance of power exotic, we get 2 extra, giving us 4 in total. We could damage our specter bit by bit in order to have threadlings come one at a time, or alternatively, destroy it completely to have all 4 of them attack at once. But the tricks on this exotic boots do not stop there. It also carries a secondary addition, as whilst we are near a threaded specter, enemies do not detect us and prioritize the threaded specter instead. This will allow us to safely perform damage within harder content without as much as a scratch hitting us if we intend to. But now, it's time to get into the meat and potatoes of our Prismatic Hunter. Starting with the aspects, of course, we're going with Threaded Spectre, as that will be what our exotic is using. We can use our dodge to create a strand decoy in order to distract enemies so that when they get in close proximity, the decoy explodes, spawning more threadlings. We can spawn multiple Threaded Spectres with multiple dodge activations on Prismatic Hunter. We'll talk about this later, but for the next aspect I want to mention is Winter's Shroud. Initially, I was unsure if we needed extra safety with the use of Stylus Executioner, and I would consider it over certain others that were present. But given the amount of DR that we obtain intrinsically with our fragments, I'd say we're in good hands for most content. What Winter's Shroud will allow us to do is have our debuffs on the enemy and increase our damage through our fragments, making our lethality much more legitimate in higher scale content. But now, it's on to our abilities, and the most important of them all is Combination Blow, the king of all hunter melees. It is a stacking melee damage buff that also refunds our hunter dodge on melee final blows. Combined with Gambler's Dodge, this will be our primary catalyst in order to create the perfect Threaded Spectre army. We will use Swarm Grenades to scorch our targets, leading to even more damage, and the jumps are always an optional nicety. Just pick what you want. But lastly, for the intrinsic build is the Fragments. Facet of Balance will grant us grenade energy and Rapid Darkness final blows, allowing us to throw constant grenades. Facet of Protection enables us to be resistant to enemies when surrounded. Being Transcendence bolsters this effect even further. Facet of Courage enables our Combination Blow to perform more damage when enemies are affected by darkness. Winter's Shroud will enable us to provide slow with the greatest of ease, and it will allow our Combination Blow to damage even harder. Next, we have 2 mods that need to be unlocked or discovered. Facet of Sacrifice enables light ability final blows to power our darkness transcendence energy. You can get this fragment in any difficulty iconoclasm by visiting the left-hand side of the dog landmark instead of the right. Climb up where the white light is, tunnel through, and you'll be able to find it. Then, there's Facet of Devotion, which allows any enemies debuffed by Stasis and Strand to produce light energy for us. You get this fragment after defeating the boss in Descent. Walk towards the path that I'm going, and then follow the purple light. That will show you the prismatic chest that you need to get this fragment in your hands. But after that, we round this out by adding Facet of Purpose, which allows our orb pickup to provide us with a defensive buff. In this case, we will be using the Silence and Squall super to provide ourselves with the Frost armor buff, as well as amazing Add Clear to boot. But feel free to switch to the supers that you desire when the time calls for it. Both Golden Gun and Tether give great options and great utility to the team, although having meager defensive boons. But with that, we'll make a pit stop to our artifacts list, in which we'll go grab Galvanic Armor, stating whilst we have our Arc or Prismatic subclass equipped, incoming damage is reduced while amplified. This will make surviving content even easier than it is before, as Combination Blow can trigger the amplified state. Now it's time for armor mods. For our headpiece, non-negotiables are both Dynamo and Hands-On, and in this build, these abilities are refreshable. These mods allow us to benefit from super energy much more aggressively. I choose to have Heavy Ammo Scout, as would allow me to better maintain my ammo economy much easier. But please, feel free to use a Harmonic mod if you are using a subclass compatible with your weapons. For our arms, we're going to prioritize heavy-handed mods to reliably produce orbs for ourselves. I went with 2, as I believe it's enough for what I need. You can certainly run 3 if you choose for higher super regen. I choose to run Impact Induction to replace the third slot so that I could reliably have a source of transcendent energy. For our chest piece, we are simply running resistance mods. Specifically, we got melee damage resistance as well as concussive dampener for general damage coverage. Feel free to switch these on the fly and change them to elemental resistances if the time really calls for it. For our legs, for my 3 mods, I use Recuperation and Better Already to simulate that of a similar effect to Liar's Handshake. This will heal us on every melee final blow, and I generally prefer the safety overall, including the ability to prolong myself as long as the Pathetic Spectre remains on the field with me. We also have a Scavenger mod for the heavy ammo that we're using, just to have more ammo overall for it. But as for our class items, Reaper will allow our next weapon final blow to spawn an Orb of Power. Bomber will allow us to reduce our grenade cooldown each time we dodge, which is going to be all the time. Powerful Attraction allows us to safely collect our orbs at a distance, but that encapsulates the build. I will briefly cover the intended playstyle with this build, as there's a lot to work with. But for the first engagement, you would like to do your dodge first, so that you're able to debuff the enemies, and make use of the Facet of Courage Fragment. And since you're in close proximity of a Threaded Spectre, you're essentially invisible to the enemies that are around you. This, paired with the fact that they are slowed, means that they will not be nearly as aggro as they were once before. This will allow you to melee and produce a small group of threadlings around you. Ideally, if you are expecting a boss fight to occur, having one lingering around might not be such a bad choice. Being in close proximity with the Threaded Spectre essentially provides you invisibility for enemies, so you're able to freely damage bosses whilst they're focused on the Threaded Spectre. And once the Threaded Spectre is fully destroyed, you are always able to run under the Spectre so long as you have your dodge on ready. But that concludes the build. Hope everyone is feeling happy and prepared for the day 1 raid, and I hope that your day 1 experience will be much better overall. Alchemyst out.